South area is in a different position from the other areas that have much less funding available now and had fewer options before it. So this is the only area committee where we're setting out either rules here. I think the key thing to go to is table 3, which is on page 6 of the separate set of papers that you had. And that really is setting out... so this is on page 6, as I say, that having set out in the previous table which ones weren't eligible, this is really coming down to the choice for each of the different boards about what you could do if you chose to within the funding that you've got available. So you might find that the issues for the options for Cherry Hinton and for Queenie of this, it's more straightforward. But for Trumpington, there are a number of issues, particularly on the informal open space side of things, because they're based on the funding that I'm clear is available at this stage. There are more bids for that money than there is money at the moment. I will, in due course, later on in the year, be running some further checks to see if I can squeeze out more funding for each of the wards, but particularly on this one for Trumpington, to see what can be done. But at this stage, this is the position that we have here. I don't propose to go through much more detail at this stage, Chair, on that, because I think this is the main table that you need to be looking at. But if there are, it's actually page 6, the table 3, Chair.
Yeah, table 3. Okay.
Thank you. But Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We also had a public question, and I did promise to the member of the public to ask a question before I give it to the councillors.
I also asked to speak to this item.
Okay. So
Same again, Councillor. I tabled my third public question on that one.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to...
Would you kindly introduce yourself,
sorry,
please?
Sam Davis, we needed
Sam
resident.
Davis.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on a topic which I think will set a significant precedent for developments across the city. So after a brief introduction, I intend to ask councillors 3 questions. Tim is the City Council's Urban Growth Project Manager, and he's explained that he's asking this area committee to choose a combination of options for Trumpington Ward which are compatible with the roughly £200,000 Section 106 funding that's available. The largest items listed for consideration are the 2 options for CB1 Mill Park to provide either park enhancements plus lighting plus irrigation at a cost of £148,000 or just park enhancements plus lighting at a cost of £115,000. Let me just remind you that the CB1 development is a product of Brookgate, a company whose accounts last year reported a value of £34 million and a profit of £9.6 million. Mill Park and the CB1 development, as we have heard tonight and at previous South Area committees, are very much at the forefront of the police's attention. Police officers have explained about their attempts to deal with antisocial behaviour at CB1. They have also said in previous meetings that, in their opinion, the problems they're encountering are, quotes, designed into the development, a view which they summarised at the October South Area Committee as lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds in a small space. Which brings me on to the purpose of Section 106 contributions. They are designed to mitigate the impacts of development on the community. Now, the City Council officer supports this application from Brookgate on the grounds that it will mitigate additional impacts of development not previously envisaged, not least the considerable extent to which a wide range of people, not just residents, make use of the site throughout the day. And his report helpfully explains that this wide range of people includes commuters to and from the station, office workers, students, mothers and babies, joggers, and those people passing through the neighbourhood. So here is my first question to councillors. Is it reasonable for Brookgate to assert that the use of this space in this location by this range of people could not have been envisaged from the outset. If you believe it should reasonably have been envisaged, then there are no grounds for paying Section 106 money to Brookgate now. The City Council officers' report suggests that users wanting to enjoy Mill Park as a recreational space, whom he characterises as the incoming student population resident at CB1, should instead be redirected to Coleridge Recreation Ground. He describes this as a short walk away from CB1, even though the most direct approach is a 15-minute walk away via a circuitous route. So my second question to councillors is it reasonable for Brookgate to expect around 1,000 young people who are visitors to our city, often on a temporary basis, and who may not be familiar with its geography, to walk nearly a mile to Coleridge Recreation Ground? If you believe that, given the large volume of student housing planned for CB1, Brookgate should reasonably have envisaged the need for recreational provision on site, then there are no grounds for paying Section 106 money to Brookgate now. Finally, it's clear from the numbers in the City Council's report that allocating either of the sums proposed to Brookgate will mean that spending on other Trumpington projects, such as Trumpington Recreation Ground, Skate Park or Climbing Frame, will have to be curtailed or abandoned. Furthermore, to quote the report, it is important to remember that once this off-site generic funding has been used, there will be little or no more. So my last question to councillors is it reasonable to use public funds which have been specifically levied to mitigate the impact of new development to offset problems which have been designed into that development from the start by a developer who is making more than a handsome profit on that development? If you believe that the issues which Brookgate now wishes to see addressed are problems of its own making, there are no grounds for paying Section 106 money to Brookgate, and the funding should instead be spent on other deserving projects around Trumpington.
And you, sir? Your name is?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Andrew Roberts, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Trumpington Residents Association. I'm speaking concerning two of the proposals which we submitted for Section 106 funding. First, we proposed a series of notice boards to be placed in the established and new areas of Trumpington. This is proposal K on page 14 in the officers' report. The recommendation by the officers is to not proceed at this stage, but to consider the proposal at a later committee meeting. We remain convinced that these notice boards would be a valuable resource for all residents, and hope that you will be able to keep to one side, say £25,000 of the informal open space budget, so that the proposal can be considered at a later date. If I can refer you back to page 6 in the report, footnote 18 refers to exactly this approach. And then secondly, we also proposed a trim trail for Trumpington Recreation Ground, also known as King George V Playing Field. This is proposal L on page 15 in the report. In option 4 under that proposal, the officers have suggested a trim trail with wooden equipment funded from the informal open space budget. We're grateful for that support and hope it will be possible to proceed with that option 4. Thank you very much.
And then I would also read Antony Carpen's question, which it was. Are you going to read it out? Thank you.
Yep. Here's the awkward thing, filming myself, but got to be done. Thank you very much, councillors, for allowing me to briefly speak on this item. I want to put on record my very, very strong opposition for any scheme proposed by Brookgate on the CB1 development. I printed out from their most recent accounts just how much money that they're making, and I think it is an insult by the board of Brookgate to have submitted this application. It's given the millions that they have made in profit this year, that they want to get an extra £150,000 off the taxpayer. I concur with everything that Sam Davis has said. And I'm surprised that there's nobody here from Brookgate to actually make the case. There's no chairman here, Colin Rutherford, no chief executive, Sven Topel, to make the case for the £150,000 or so that they want. There's nobody here from the investors of Aviva Investors, Santander, LaSalle Investment Management, Orchard Street and Tesco Pension Trustees Limited. I note very, very strongly at how crime has been designed in and how we, the community, have now got to deal with the problems of crime and antisocial behaviour while the developers run off with all of the profits. Developers, this is why the people of Cambridge are beginning to hate you, because you're behaving like this.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll leave it at that.
Sorry, can I may be wrong, but I need to try and clarify something. Section 106 money, it is money that the developers give to the city council or to the community to mitigate the impact of their development. It is normally when they come for a planning application, we say you have to give a section 106 money. To make, if you're building a multi-story building, we will need this council more parks, more post offices, more schools, more everything. And they give this money to be spent in the community. So it's not taxpayers' money. I think it's money that the developers has put aside. I'm sorry? Okay? So I don't think it's tax that you paid from your own pocket that you work. It's money. Maybe I'm wrong. The officer can clarify that. I'm not sure. Okay?
Chair, Section 106 funding is to mitigate the impact of development. We treat it as carefully as any other money that the council receives to make sure that it is used effectively and properly in line with requirements.
Thank you. Okay. Can we start with Councillor Drayton and then Councillor Ashton, please?
Well, listening to Sandy, I mean, I'm glad she said what she said, because it's exactly what I felt actually. Because Brookgate should have done what they wanted without coming and asking for this money. And what was said that the people from them hadn't come tonight to put up their case. The reason is there isn't no case. They shouldn't be allowed to do this. And I've never known in the time where developers actually ask back the money that they're given for the community in the first place. This should have been done right from the start. Not now. They should go back and do this on their own back, not asking, this money is worth more in some other areas of our community. Yep. We should be paying for Brookgate because they failed to do what they should have done right from the start.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Ashton, I think, and then Councillor McPherson.
Yeah, just to say I will be voting for this allowance exactly for the reasons that have been stated. I think it's quite obvious, it's totally immoral, it's totally wrong, and although the officers are recommending it as councillors, we have a right to say no, so my answer is no.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't need to say much, I think Sam nailed it. Where we're saying on this.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Chair, might I just add a point?
Yes.
The assessment sets out those options that could be considered by councillors. Officers aren't recommending options. They're saying, based on the eligibility criteria, you could choose from these. It will be for the area committee to decide what it wants to do. Thank you.
Councillor Ivey, please.
So I'm going to try and tiptoe through this if I can, because clearly there are strong emotions about this, I can see. And I think I take the point that Tim is making, that this money is made available on certain conditions, and we can only use it in a certain way. It is not like tax in that respect. Tax generally goes into a pot and is generally fungible with all other tax. And I think I'm right, if we don't use it, we have to give it back eventually. But anyway, so we need to make sure that we use it. We have this dilemma with CD1 Mill Park, because again, correct me if I'm wrong, what has been built was what was required to have been built under the planning condition. I understand, that patch of grass that has functioned so poorly, the designing in is a function of the planning process. So I think everybody's right to point to developers that make profit and then come back and ask to direct us how they wish us to spend the money that is ours direct. I think that does leave a bit of a taste. But I think we have to be careful, because in the end, something has to be done about Mill Park. And if we don't believe we have a lever, and I don't know, what are the levers that we have as councillors to get something done to that patch of ground that deals with these problems? If the developer does not have a legal obligation to do it, then how is it going to get resolved if we do not somehow find our own way of resolving it? So that's the dilemma I think that we have to struggle with. I think that, and it's really thrown into relief here on this list, because you can see how what you might refer to as old Trumpington, if you like, the old Trumpington that's been around for years and years and years, the old Trumpington wreck with the equipment that has become old and suffers in comparison with any new play areas or new developments. Of course it looks old. Trumpington wreck can do with a refresh. It can do with exactly this kind of money spent on it. And I think we certainly would all want to be able to do that. And the dilemma appears to be that you can only do that, or you can resolve this problem that has happened in a development in this particular way. And I think we have to try and not see them as alternatives, but we have to plot our way through this in a way that allocates funds for the purpose for which they were collected, that deals with the effects of development, which is at the heart, I think, of why we have the money, but also takes the opportunity where we can to upgrade existing facilities in places like you might call Old Trumpington. So with that in mind, and I think that there's also there's a dynamic not mentioned here. I understand with Mill Park, which is that there are remedial works going on at the moment, which of course we're not paying for. That's all part of what the developer is having to do to remediate the way that piece of land was put together. Those works will be finished when they're finished. There is then, I think, another period of time that will need to elapse to see if those remedial works have remediated whatever the problem was. So that will take perhaps another year before, even if we decided now to spend all of this money on that area, nothing will happen for a year. That land needs to have settled down. They need to make sure that the remedial works have worked. So, perhaps now is not the time to be considering these ones in any case. But, whether they have merit, they are eligible, it appears they are eligible, they are something that apparently we can spend the money on if we're minded to do so. But maybe the right thing to say is this is actually not for deciding now. It's to see what happens with the remedial works. It's to see what levers there may be through the planning conditions that were imposed, any contractual rights or other rights that we as council might have against the developer to get the designed-in crime designed out, if that's something we can achieve. So I would suggest that the committee or the assistant committee, that we put the Mill Park, the Little Raymond 2, Little Raymond 3, we put that to one side in our considerations for this evening, and we look at the other items and look at them without the either-or anxiety. We look at them on their merits and decide whether they're things that we would like to fund. And in the back of our minds, I think we have to keep in the back of our minds that the Mill Park problem will come back to us in a year. It will still be there, almost certainly. We may have to spend some money on it, But I think we have to, but I think maybe now's not the time. Now's not the time. Now's the time to put it to one side. I wouldn't say that, would you mind saying it anyway?
Tim also come in and just help us for a second.
Chair, just to clarify if it's helpful, just the point that Councillor Avery has made is actually highlighting a point on page 13 of the report, which is the second page of the part of the assessment on the CV1 Mill Park improvements. That highlights the 12-month remedies period that is currently underway. So Councillor Avery is right that anything that could be done there, if this was one of the options that was approved by the committee, it wouldn't be taking place until spring, summer 2018. So the point is that there is time to consider this further for when there is a follow-up report to this committee in due course to have more information and a further update on the availability of funding. I'd just also like to highlight the point that Mr Roberts made, highlighting the footnote 18, which is just this point that whilst at the moment we're saying there is £200,000 available, the area committee does not have to spend all of that money now. That it is possible to, certainly for the Trumpington projects, for the area committee to pick those projects that it wants at this point and to leave some funding left over for consideration of either the Mill Park project or other projects that might come forward in future. One thing I would say though is the issue of expiry dates. We work really hard to make sure that projects come forward so that we are really on top of the expiry date issues and make sure that we're not in a position of having to return funding to developers. So working closely with area committees on that. Thank you.
Can I just, George, can I just...
Councillor Avery and then Councillor Ashton.
Can you just explain if there's an expiry date issue with the Mill Park monies, because we'll all be very cross if we have to give it back.
Off the top forgive me, Chair. Off the top of my head, the last instalment of the funding came in either 2013 or 2014 and is on a 10-year expiry date. So there is time.
Councillor Ashton, please.
Yeah, I can't understand, Chair, why we just don't go to a vote on this. What we'll be saying tonight is we don't agree with this. If they want to bring it back next year or the year after, they've got 10 years to do that. So tonight we can take a vote, which sounds a warning to Brookgate. We will not pay for their cock-ups, you know, and they've got a chance to remedy it. If we defer this vote tonight, they will see that as the opening where they come back again and they ask for it again. So my recommendation, Chair, is that we take a vote on this tonight and we say yes or no, and listen to I might be voted down. The rest of the panel might agree for it. So that's democracy, and I think we should take a vote.
Okay, we intend to take a vote, and we will vote, all of us on Cherry Hinton, all of us will vote on Queen's, and all of us will vote on the Trumpington. We'll take them one at a time, I think, rather than just as one lot. But before we vote, I think we need to give the opportunity to other councillors to comment. Councillor Zoe.
Thank you. It is a lot of a Trumpington Council at the moment to be very wary, I think would be the politest way of putting it, of developers and of actions by developers. I have personally, as a result of seeking development to not list it, backing onto where I live, had cause to object to some developments there. There have been some non-planning related things that have happened around there that have been ridiculous. But I can't turn around to residents on the CV1 development and say, sorry, we're going to leave you with a bunch of crime going on because we've got an argument with a bunch of developers we don't like. How am I supposed to stand up in front of residents and go, sorry, we don't like what developers did? We can't do that. So we do have to consider this item now. I don't think we're going to go, well, I'm not going to vote for it tonight, because I think we have got a year to consider it. But we can't just say, sorry, because otherwise we're going to get reports in 2, 3, 4 years from the police and residents coming here from the CP1 saying, why didn't you do anything when you could?
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I'm also torn, but you can't let the residents down there. Not in the end. But we have a gap. We have a good gap. It may well be that there's a chance for some better leverage further on down the line, if things haven't improved, that we will put a bit in, if they will put some more in. We cannot, in reality, not look after these residents. That's a terrible thing. I understand the dilemmas that brings, but we don't need to decide it now.
Sorry about that, sorry. I heard you, but we have Councillor Avery now.
Yeah, I just think you have to be very careful not to let emotion drive a decision and then to convey an emotional decision back, because as a committee we have certain powers, and I think, and again, this is more like a point of order in a way. What are we being asked to do? We're being asked to choose between eligible schemes and choose priorities between eligible schemes. We're not being asked to exercise our strongly held emotional feelings about who's putting the scheme forward. So I don't even think it's an option to say, I reject your scheme, because I think the scheme is eligible. So we have to say, it's not a priority at the moment, which is a different thing. And I just think, because in this, maybe we're allocating funds here, we're making some kind of a decision as a public body, under some kind of delegated power. So, judicial review is the thing that everybody shouts. And so we have to exercise that power correctly. So let's not get excited about saying, I hate you and I hate what you stand for and I hate for your profits and all of that. As much as you do, that might be a perfectly reasonable position to have, but that's not the basis upon which we make a decision. We make a decision based on whether this scheme is a priority for this money and compares against other schemes. And then you can say what you like after that, but just when you're making the decision, make the decision on the right ground.
Yeah, on the report it says this proposal is separate from remedial works currently being undertaken by HIL to rectify existing issues with the open space. So what are they doing anyway? So it says they're taking measures. So why don't we let these measures be taken, see what effect it has, and like I said, then they come back and say, right, the measures we've taken have worked, we don't have to put more money in, or guess what, there's still some manoeuvre to go around. So it identifies there that they're taking measures to sort out the problems they've caused.
Let me answer that, George. Can I answer that? This is why you have to focus on what decision you're being asked to make. The remedial, as I understand it, that there is a piece of ground there that was incorrectly constructed for the use for which it was put, for which it was required to be put, which was a kick-around area. So people were kicking around on it, and the amount of use on that ground made the ground collapse in some fashion. So these remedial works are nothing to do with designing out or designing in. They're to do with actually fixing the ground as ground. So doing those works won't change the issues. In fact, all that will happen is it'll make it a better kickabout area. So what worries me, in a sense, is that the remedial works will happen, and the fencing that is around it will stay there, because the fencing around it, I think, was effectively to stop the antisocial behaviour, as seen, whatever it was. So as I say, you have to focus hard on what our decision is, and the remedial works, it's not an alternative to remedial works. I'm sure that if you look at this closely, what they are doing is what what they are required to do under whichever contracts they are bound. And no more will they do, or will they expect to do, I guess.
A question to the officer. Are we able to defer decisions, to vote to defer a certain proposal or not?
Chair, the issue is that in Trumpeton Ward there are a number of options that councillors have in front of them to ask them which of these, up to £200,000 in total, would the area committee like to prioritise to be taken forward. That doesn't mean that the focus on that is the positive choice of the ones that you want, not the ones that you don't want. These are the ones that you want up to £200,000. If you want to go much less than £200,000, that's up to you. So you have that choice.
Any more comments? I propose then for us to go down the list on table 3, on page number 6, and to vote for Cherry Hinton, to vote for Queen Edith, and the other us to vote for Trumpington. Yeah. So, choose one of Cherry Hinton, choose one of four proposals: Fulton Road, open space improvements, and or proposal B.
Chair, forgive me, I think Councillor Taylor had her hand up.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
Yes, Chair, while I have my own views on what you ought to be doing with this, I wonder if you could make it clear to the people here that as a county councillor I don't have a vote on this item. In case people think I'm not interested.
Okay. Yes, county councillors are not allowed to vote on city issues. Okay, so...
Chair.
Yes, sir.
And so, obviously you've heard a lot about what Trumpeton councillors think about the Trumpeton proposals. It might just help me if you're asking me to vote on the Cherry Hinton and Queen Edith's proposals, to hear from those ward councillors how they view them. Are they happy with them or not?
That's a wonderful suggestion. Yes, please. I would appreciate a Cherry Hinton councillor to give us their views, please.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chair. I think the report here says and or. We're going for both because both of these schemes have equal merit, and we should keep both these schemes in under the Cherry Hinton heading. I don't really propose to say much more than that, actually.
Yeah, and
The only thing we did discuss was that the seating on the Fulton Road, which
yes.
is a big building, and a lot of employers will go there probably their lunch times as an open space, that we don't put the seats too near where the residents' gardens are back onto, because it could be used at night time as well by you. So we'd like the seating to be nearer the road than at the back of the gardens. Other than that, we're supportive.
thank you so much. So can you have a show of hands for Cherry Hinton, please?
For both.
Both, yes. That's unanimous, yes? Thank you. The next one is Queen Edith's. Choose proposal D, county close play area improvements, or decide not to prioritise on a project from Queen Edith's in the 2016-2017 funding round. Councillor Moore?
We put quite a bit of work into the Gunhild Close area, and it's time that they had that play area and park improved. So I would like to propose that we accept that.
Okay. Anybody? Show of hands, yeah? We approve Queen Edith's? Yeah? Unanimous, yeah? Okay. So, please help me on the next one, which is Trumpington. What do you recommend?
Well, I personally, I would say I would fund 1, 4, 5, and 6, and say that we choose not at this time to fund 2 and 3
So,
and leave it at that.
1,
4, 5, 6.
Chair, can I help you on this one?
Please.
In terms
Please.
of the £200,000 informal open space funding that we were saying was available in Trumpington, the 3 informal open space elements of Accordia open space improvements up to £10,000, the Trumpington Rec trim trail up to 20, and the Trumpington Rec skate park, that would bring you up to £110,000 of informal open space money from Trumpington, leaving £90,000 available for future consideration about how that should be used. One of the issues that why we're presenting all of these options to the area committee as a whole is that, as the report says, that whilst it is funding from a particular ward, that doesn't mean to say that the money has to be spent only in that ward. If there was, if using the money, say, over a ward boundary in another area would benefit both where the money came from and other parts of the area. So you have got options there. Now, option 6, which was the Trumpington Rec climbing frame, that is play area money, so that's why I'm dealing with that separately. But all of those proposals, 1, 4, 5 and 6, is something that you've got the funding to do at this stage if you want to.
Okay.
Ask a question.
Yes,
One of the audience asked about the notice boards. Could that be put in now then if we're not using it? Or?
Chair, what we're saying at this point is that's not ready to be considered yet, but by leaving funding available, that's something that later on this year we were suggesting we could come back to you with a report back when the timing of that might be better.
okay.
Thank you.
So, if I understood correctly, 1, 4, 5 and 6 were to vote for. Anybody who is supporting that? Yeah? 1, 4, 5. Items 1, 4, 5 and 6 on the Trumpington. On the Trumpington, yes? One is Accordia open space improvements. Item number 4 is Trumpington Rec ground to 30k. Item 5, Trumpington Rec skate park. Item 6, Trumpington Rec ground climbing frame. And we're leaving behind CB1 Mill Park, CB1 Mill Park. Yeah? So your neighbours?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
What was? But do we get a chance to vote against 2 and 3?
No.
It's not in your area.
So we can't. What can't we?
Gallery.
You have to get somebody to propose
What
it.
proposal is
Items 2 and 3, how do we deal with them, sir?
Chair, can I make a suggestion that the report has asked the area committee to decide which proposals it would like to prioritise, not the ones that it doesn't want to prioritise at this stage. That provides you with more options in due course for there to be further consideration either of these options or others that may come up in future.
So we wanted to prioritise 1, 4, 5 and 6. Unanimously. Yeah?
Yes.
Is sufficient? Yes.
We don't have to vote on 2 and 3.
I think we want to make a comment in a minute.
Are you voting to spend up to the maximum of each agrees, and does that add up to 160,000?
Chair, I wonder whether I might be able to help on this, because
Yes, please.
from my perspective, the area committee has been able to make decisions of projects in each of the areas, and there is the funding available. So the 2 projects from Cherry Hinton will be funded from Section 106 funding from Cherry Hinton, and the same for the Queen Edith's project, funding from Queen Edith's. So where Trumpington had that there was, we were saying £200,000 of informal open space funding from Trumpington. From the ones that have been allocated thus far, that works out as 110 of the 200 of the informal open space funding. So you have funding left over that you consider for another day. So everything's fine, and you're also looking for around the £50,000 for the play area money. So that's all fine.
Okay.
Just clarify, we turned down those two.
No!
We're going to be money for them, aren't we?
We prioritize one. We approve the other one. We haven't taken down the other one. We just prioritize one. 4, 5, and 6. We have not taken down the other one. The other one will be open as well. To be reconsidered.
Not necessarily these two.
Or not. That's the difference.
You mean the money's still there?
The money is still there. All right? Yes.
I think it's important that we reflect in the minutes that in fact, as far as we're concerned, as far as the charities and councils are concerned, that we don't feel that CV1 Mill Park improvements should be funded by these monies and that the developer should pick up the tab for that. We wish that to be recorded.
So you don't feel...
We don't feel that the funding should come from this source. We feel that these improvements should be undertaken by the developer themselves. They should put this right. It's their responsibility. If there's a design fault, it's the developer's responsibility to put that right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Item 11. Building strong communities by Jackie Hansen.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. First I'd like to just thank this committee for enabling the drop-in at the beginning of this session. It's been really helpful to have conversations with local people and have that wider discussion than just the survey that we've got on offer. This report really details the significant work that's been undertaken since my last visit to this committee on this area of work. In preparation for the draft community centre strategy. I wanted to really highlight the emerging proposals in 3.3 of the report and also the map in Appendix A, and make it clear that these are not set in stone at this point, that we are quite a way through the 12-week consultation period now, and the consultation itself closes on the 5th of May. So really, it is an information item about kind of noting the proposals, noting the consultation process, and really encouraging people to send in their views, comments, and anything that members also wish to submit for the deadline. Happy to take any email responses as well, so that we can put together as much information as possible as we go forward. And you'll just see that the next steps for us here is we're planning to take a report to Community Centre Scrutiny Committee on the 29th of June, not that far away now, with a final Community Centre strategy. Happy to take questions.
Is it possible to carry on to the next one as well? Just yeah, okay, let's keep this one right now. Yeah, okay. All right, yes. Any questions on this one? No? No? Okay. Carry on to the next one, please.
Thank you, Chair. So item number 12 agenda item 12. This again is the annual report of the Councillors Committee where we have promoted and considered area committee grants. What you've got is a summary of the recommendations in 2.2 on page 43, and they're expanded in more detail in the appendix. I think just to say that it's important for councillors to note that of the budget, the recommendations propose to spend the whole amount, and if anybody wishes to make alternative recommendations to increase or reduce, if you actually want to increase an award for anybody, it will have to be balanced by a reduction somewhere else. Because it's a very pressured budget, and what the officer panel did was try very hard to enable activities to happen, and give a broad range of activities across the different wards, and really look at those assessments. As you can see, it has been quite difficult to balance. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Bryson?
Well, questions, it's not questions again. I've declared an interest on I'm a member of the Friends of Cheriton Hall, and I'm also a volunteer with the Cheriton Festival Society. And while the Cheriton Festival Society is Cheriton, it's actually attended by people from all over the city, probably outside the city. And actually, what was it, 50,000 last? 3,000? Over 3,000 attended last year, so it's a big event. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I guess in that case I should also declare an interest as the safety advisor for that event.
Thank you. Anybody else? Or shall we go to the vote then if there's no other comments? If we approve those recommendations, can I have a show of hands, please? The recommendations on page 44. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then we go to item 13, environmental reports. Environmental reports on page 59. Is 59 is the recommendations, and if we agree with those recommendations, we need to vote. If we don't agree with them, we need to write to the officer. So there's 6 recommendations there. Does everybody agree with those? If we do, please show your hands. No? Please, okay, please comment.
So one of the recommendations from last time around was to do with issues around Antony Way, and the site is being redeveloped for council housing, and there's a lot of fly tipping and bin problems, and bins being left out on the street, raised by a resident, and we identified it last time and made it a priority. And I think I'm right in reading here that due to issues, shall we say, with the changeover in bin days, let's just leave it at that, this hasn't, there hasn't been an action point of any sort in relation to dealing with the bins on the street issue, but it's proposed to drop it as a priority nonetheless. And that seems like the wrong thing to do, just simply because we haven't managed to do it, we should not treat it as a priority any longer, having decided it was a priority before. So I'd still like, as a priority, that whatever issues that there are around Antony Way that are arising from the sort of slow development of that area needs to still be the subject of ongoing work by the environmental team. So this was, if you look on page, I think it's 62, about halfway down, it's priority 6. See, it says priority 6 and then action taken, Antony Way. This is the thing I'm referring to. So, why would we remove it as a priority given that it's not being done? But the work still needs to be done. So I'd like that reinstated, please.
It was just that, if you remember, Wendy mentioned last time that the government stopped the right of local councils prosecuting people for leaving bins out, and it's actually mentioned in the report now, the powers for bins left on the street is being criminalised. So we have no powers now, as a city council, to chase others up for leaving bins outside, whereas we did before. And I think that's one of the reasons now where they're saying, let's get things sorted out before we see what action we can take. Before there was clear action we could take, we could actually prosecute them. Now we don't have those powers. So I think that's why the officers have been recommending this change in action.
Thank you.
I think that's only true in relation to the non-social housing. I think that it's a term of the leases of the social housing tenants that they don't leave their bins on the streets in this way, that they use the bin areas. So I think that's only half right. And I would just, ask people to leave their bins in their bin areas rather than put them on the street.
Yes.
If we're not quite sure of the rule of that now, can't we find out from that?
Can I make a recommendation? Can I undertake to write to Wendy and myself, or Wendy, one of you, to bring that instead of, because none of us, she's not here, so none of us is an expert. Shall we just go on the 6 items she recommended as a resurrection point? Either one of the councillors who knows this case can write to Wendy, or if you want to appoint the chair to do that, I'm happy to do that. But I give yes, please.
We did actually add this to the priority last time, so we already accepted it's something we can do. So I don't think there's any question now over whether it should be, whether it's possible. It's now just a question of whether it remains a priority or it should be funded. And I think it probably should remain a priority on that basis. Can I also ask if we've had any message or apologies to the officers why they're not here? We have had an awful lot of problems recently, and it's a shame that we don't have a chance to ask them about it.
I think she's on leave.
Okay, in that case, would it be possible to write to the appropriate officer and inquire as to why a physical officer was not sent in instead? Presumably if she was on leave, it's the plan. And particularly given recent problems, I personally am disappointed that there was no one here to speak to this item.
The councillors would like me to write to find out why there was no replacement here. Do you know anything, John?
I know that she's on leave, but I haven't been briefed on any of these particular points. I'm afraid I can't help.
I'd just like to, on number 4, when we asked for this to be put on, it was Fulham Road and Queen's Meadows.
That disappeared for some reason.
Sorry, what was that?
Queen's Meadows. Item number 4.
That's what I'm seeing written on my copy.
Page 59.
Oh, okay, so I was looking at 62.
Page 59.
It's got Queen's Meadows on it, it's listed on here, that's what I'm saying.
That's actually addressed in the report. It says patrols for Queen's Meadow have not identified any vehicles to note of the vehicle.
Well,
I think that's right.
there was today.
Any more comments? Shall we go to the vote?
Absolutely, Chair.
Okay, let's go to the vote. To vote on the 6 priorities which are listed here, and then at the 7th one as well. The 7 priorities, clear with the 7 priorities. Correct?
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
All agree.
7 priorities. That's unanimous. Is it unanimous? Yeah? Thank you.
And that has to wait.
Yes. Yes. And thank you so much. I think